Hold on, folks. Little technical problems. It's Jody Sutter. It's Just Ask Jody live. How is everyone today? It's great to see you, and it's great to be here for the last Just Ask Jody live of the 2025 season. I've been doing this now for almost 3 years, which is pretty crazy to think. And today is a episode that I'm really looking forward to because we've got the client's perspective. I love when I have folks on who are working on the marketer side, on the client side, because I think for a lot of agencies, one of the struggles around business development is knowing how to get the right message to the right person at the right time. And so this is going to be an example of that. I'm going to introduce my guest in just a couple of moments. First, though, just a little bit of a plug. For those of you who really want to start 2026 off strong, I just want to let you know that I have been running a pilot program for my new program called the Build, Win, Scale Accelerator. I've been working with 5 intrepid agencies and building a new business operating system. This is a reliable, repeatable approach to business development success. I'll be reopening enrollment in January. And if you'd like more information, or if you'd like to join us, please do email me or DM me. Just you can throw a comment here in the LinkedIn Live or DM me on LinkedIn, or even scan this handy QR code and get yourself an appointment with me so I can tell you a little bit more. All right, so let me tell you about my guest today. My guest is Stefan Hawes, and he is currently the head of marketing for Destination Vancouver. But before that, Stefan had big roles at some big agencies and some small agencies too, all over the world. He's worked at AKQA, at TBWA, and then recently went to Destination Vancouver. I might get this wrong. In the last year or two, he can probably help me out with the exact dates. Let me invite him to the stage. I also have to just let everyone know that Stefan is doing us a total solid because you feel terrible. You have the flu. And I just want to thank you for being here and welcome you. Hey, how you doing? No, I'm not even going to ask that. I take that back. How are you hanging in there?
I'm doing great, Jody. Happy to be here, and it's great to see you. And I have a daughter. I live in a petri dish, and so these things happen. But I'm thrilled to be here and chatting with you today.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're here too. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And like I said in the intro, I love giving folks a sort of a window into how you as a marketer think in terms of how you choose agency partners, how you work with agency partners, and also because of your background, having worked at agencies as well, you have this very valuable perspective of seeing both sides of the coin. So I guess one of my first question is, now that you are, first of all, how long have you been at Destination Vancouver? I think I messed that up. It's been 2 years now?
It's been 3.5 years now.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
The time absolutely flies. It terrifies me sometimes, but it's amazing. It's been a good run so far.
Yeah. Well, also, what an amazing city to be able to represent. But tell me, so now that you are back on the client side, what do you wish you had done differently as an agency leader? From initial outreach to final pitch meeting, that when you were making overtures to clients like yourself?
That's good. Great first question.
You probably spend the whole time talking about this.
Well, we've done a few pitches since we've been here, or since I've joined the organization. We did one very early on, and for our brand leadership work. Mm-hmm. And then we did another one for leadership on our World Cup campaign initiatives. And one thing you realize being on this side of things, and I've actually, somewhere in my resume there, I've consulted with large organizations in helping them review their agency structure and run pitches.
I didn't know that.
And one thing is always true is that we really want the agencies to succeed. There's a desire to see the agencies do incredibly well. You want to be blown away by them. You want to have a problem at the back end of which one are you going to pick. And so there's an openness, at least at my end, to talk openly and share completely with the agencies to tell them what I'm looking for and have them really understand our needs and desires. And usually it's hard to get that to come through completely in an RFP document, although we've gotten very positive feedback on RFP documents because we try and keep them simple and short and don't make them overly onerous for our agencies.
Yes.
But we want them to blow us away. And so I'm willing to share openly and completely, and then they have a great opportunity to learn from us. And I'm not sure, whether all clients are like this, but I want those agencies to take that opportunity. Ask me hard questions, be difficult. It's okay to be difficult. We're all on the same team here as we go through this process. So, and then the other one for me, that I learned from being both sides here is just agencies have to show they're excited. They have to show they want the business. They need to make us feel like they want to be here and be our partner. And it's remarkable how some agencies don't seem like they're that interested in the business.
Wow.
It's like responding quickly and demonstrating a passion for the business. We did during our branding pitch, one of the CEOs of one of the agencies was angry at how the Vancouver brand is reflected. And I share her anger and frustration and happy to sit there and pound on tables and say we have to be better. And she got the business because, we wanted that passion. I mean, of course, was also combined with some great strategic thinking. And so they checked all the other boxes. But I love the fact that she was that passionate about transforming our business. So I think, as a client, as a partner, transparency and the amount of information we're willing to give is quite substantial if we're simply asked.
That's so already I warned Stefan, and anyone who's been on these lives before knows that. Actually, maybe they don't know, but I start with a line of questioning, and then usually my guest says something. I'm like, I want to dive into that one. So I've got a couple of follow-up questions on that. And just actually, by the way, too, for anyone who is watching this live, I know a lot of you folks will watch the recording of this, but if you are watching live and you've got questions for Stefan or me, please do put in the comments. I've got my eye on the comments as well. And I promise if, as long as it's relevant to discussion, it will preempt any question I've got for Stefan. But okay, so the, where do I start with this? The idea of like enthusiasm and passion, I agree. And I also think that sometimes what I see when I work with agencies is that sometimes I find they can over-index on passion and enthusiasm and under-index on the solution or even the challenge part. Because I want to talk more about that as well. So yeah, I do sometimes I think agencies will just not show that passion. And I don't get it. Then why are they involved? But I think I also often caution my clients just to make sure that passion is not what they're solely relying on to win the business. So have you ever seen sort of an agency come in so overly enthusiastic that you don't know what to do with them?
Yeah, yes, certainly. I mean, the passion has to be wrapped up in great work and the capability to deliver for us on what we're expecting out. That's why, I start off by saying, we're an open book. We're happy to share. You have to be able to nail the thing that we're trying to deliver on. And even there, sometimes I'm shocked at how much agencies may not listen to what we are trying to deliver on. An easy example is the World Cup one I mentioned a minute ago.
Yeah,
we were very, very clear
about offline. Yeah.
We were very clear about the fact that we needed to. The primary goal of our World Cup efforts, because our budgets are small, in the World Cup you're competing against Adidas and Coke and Budweiser for attention on a global stage. You're going to be outspent 200 to 1. So how do we get out there and rise beyond that clatter? And the primary goal was delivering on earned media. We wanted agencies to be able to create campaigns for us that would help us deliver on an earned media story. And, I only a couple of potential agency partners came back and truly understood the meaning of that and what we were trying to get out of the whole project. Lots were able to do, great activations and nice sampling programs and things like that, but not do the things that were actually going to get the world talking about Vancouver.
Is that because they thought the activations and the sampling were like cool and fun and they'll love it? Or did they actually think that that was the real solution to the real problem? My hunch says probably the former, but I'm curious.
I think they were trying to make our problem fit their solution. And they had or they'd gone and they had, here's a partner we're going to pull in. That partner does this really well. This is going to be perfect. But that partner actually wasn't focused on delivering on earned media. So I think that, trying to fit square pegs into a round hole, I've got to fit the round hole. So we did find a partner that was terrific at it. So it wasn't a loss, but I felt badly for some of the agencies in that they didn't seem to understand the brief in that situation.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting too, because so often we want to go directly in with a solution, and sometimes also if it's a solution that they feel like they're really familiar with, we're familiar with activation, so that's what we're going to give them. I believe you really have to. It's so important to qualify those opportunities initially, and sometimes the qualification isn't like, hey, can we qualify this to make the client want to do an activation? It's we're like, we understand the problem, but we're not the best ones to deliver the solution, and maybe not pitching, which really hard to tell agencies they shouldn't do. But yeah.
Well, that pitch was actually a great example of that one where I spoke to an agency and told them that it probably wouldn't be successful for them to pitch, but they were welcome to submit and pitch if they so desired, and they insisted upon it. And we're not successful, but I still feel badly in that situation because I know how much effort it takes to pitch a piece of business, and so there's a major investment in it. Even if it's not. Even if you restrict what you're asking for within the pitch and you try not to make it too big, it's still a huge investment of time and effort and emotion. Nobody within an agency feels great when they don't get shortlisted or don't win, succeed in a pitch process.
Yeah. So, and I'm going off on another tangent because you've been on both sides, marketer and agency. And so how much it takes from your working in agencies, how much it takes to pitch. And I know, like, when we first met, you were at a smaller Vancouver-based agency and you were leading that agency. And I know you've worked with bigger agencies where you've probably been under pressure by someone or something, even a holding company who are, of course, under pressure to shareholders. How often did you feel like, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that conflict of, wow, deep down, you may be saying to yourself, I know we probably shouldn't pitch this. And yet I either feel pressure from myself or pressure from the board or my boss. Did you ever run into that, and how did you deal with that? Because I imagine there are probably agency leaders who run into that all the time.
I suspect every single person on this call runs into that from time to time, because we all report to somebody, and unless you own the agency or 100% yourself, and even in that case, you feel responsibility to those that work for your agency to improve the agency and make it better and make sure that they're, you have responsibility for those individuals. And that's why it's a tough job to run an agency, because there's pressure. It's very binary, right? You either win, you lose. In the private sector here, my business might go up 1%, 2% a year, versus the agency business where, a piece of business might represent 15% of your total revenue, and that might have a huge hit and impact on the people that work for you. So absolutely, we all report to somebody, and no matter what, there's always that pressure to pretty much pitch everything that walks past you that shows an interest in you. And I can say that, I've been as guilty as anyone of going into something that maybe I wasn't the right fit for, an agency wasn't the right fit for, and you do the best you can to, and you almost never win those. I think it's only through experience. Maybe if we were smarter, that we sat down and had, looked into the data that said, what did we think the likelihood was, and when did we actually win those pitches that we didn't think. I think there's other wonderful stories about pitches that you find your way into, and those tend to be more successful. So, the ones where you just end up being invited into to fill out a roster or a list for somebody that's doing a pitch versus the conversation you might have with a potential prospect And, I've read before that, if you have the ability to shift the pitch or change what the timing of the pitch is or anything like that, all of a sudden your chances are significantly greater. And I think it makes perfect sense. You've been able to change the process and turn yourself into a true prospect for that organization.
And I think you said a really important word, conversation. So this idea of either whether it's good fortune or bravery or just, your policy as an agency to be able to have a conversation with a client. And I think that's also a lot of thing. I love how you said that you try to be an open book with your agencies, because I think a lot of organizations are not. And those RFPs, they both prevent the agencies from engaging prior to. I think part of it's sort of protection, like we're too busy, we can't talk to all these agencies. And yet the RFP is also this kind of not very ineffective tool for somehow reducing the risk of hiring an agency or hiring the wrong agency. And I don't think you can. I don't think you can have it both ways for the marketers as well. So when you are an open book, I guess a couple of things. How often do you find agencies not take advantage in a bad way, but how often do they say, "Great, I'm going to engage this guy in conversation"? And you said that maybe not as often as they do. And do you ever find that your time is wasted, or do you feel like it's a frustrating thing? Are you ever sorry that you've been an open book? I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
I've never regretted being an open book, but I find maybe half of the agencies take decent advantage of it. I think that some occasionally, some agencies don't even bother. They just say, "Well, we got enough information from your brief to not even bother in the conversation." I think some agencies try and turn the opportunity into a moment where they talk about themselves. Yes. And they're selling themselves. Yeah. And it kind of drives you crazy, because this is not the opportunity to sell yourself. This is the opportunity to hear how you should be selling yourself. But this is the chance to come in and ask tough questions and challenge. And I'm not saying every client is like me, but I'm happy to be challenged in my thinking to say, "Hey, have you thought of looking at this way?" And it's a great opportunity because there's no risk. If I say, "Yeah, I don't like that," great. You learned something very, very important there in my way of approaching things. Nobody does spec creative work or anything like that anymore, but every pitch still needs you to be strategic in it on how you would answer and deal with that client's challenges. So you need to fully understand exactly where their heads are at and what they're trying to accomplish. And take that chance to investigate and dig, and it won't become. I think people are concerned it might become adversarial in some weird sort of way if they want to challenge the preconceived notions of the clients. Whereas for me, it's great. Like, let's have that conversation, because maybe I'm going the wrong direction and you can help me avoid going there early on.
That's right. Yes. I think also you talk about sometimes these opportunities to talk to you before the actual pitch means that they just end up talking about themselves. So that would be something I would also caution. There's a sort of the sense of like, well, yes, this is an opportunity for us to tell them all about us. So try not to do that. I also think there's a sense of like, well, we got to be prepared, and we've got to be prepared with either to tell them about us or to ask, like, find good questions, even if we don't have any good questions. Let's say your RFP is really good. You don't really have any questions. That's one thing one of my pet peeves is during Q&As, like somehow like generating questions just because you feel like you need to. However, I do think that even if my prospect says to me, like, "Hey, look, opportunity to talk to us before the pitch," even if I don't have any clear questions, I think I would still do it, just to be able to say, "Hey, Stefan, I'm Jody. Here's the agency I'm representing. Here's how I understand your problem. We've got some ideas." I think also just to test out agendas. Here's what we're thinking about. What might be a good solution for you? Does this feel like, just like as you said, that challenge, does this feel like something you'd welcome? Gives you an opportunity to say, "I appreciate your feedback, but no, here's why that won't work." So then I have a chance to go and redirect my team.
Yeah, I have a hard time picturing a scenario though where you don't have any questions for a potential client prospect. I mean, that's pretty rare. The other part is, it's not saying don't come in and show who you are.
Yeah.
Your questions are incredibly indicative of what kind of agency you are. Your questions will show me how you're thinking and where your head is going around my business. And the, smart questions will be acknowledged as, wow, those are some interesting smart questions.
Yeah.
I've sat in meetings where came out and went, wow, those are fascinating, smart questions. And then the final pitch doesn't actually include those, the knowledge that they showed in the middle meeting. But,
Wow.
I think it definitely is an opportunity to show where you are and who you are and how you're thinking about the business.
Yeah, I wonder, why do you think that was? Why do you think those smart questions or that smart conversation?
I don't know, because you never know what happens back at the agency when the folks return back from their conversation, and whether people that were asking smart questions aren't in a position of power or influence, and so therefore the organization goes a different direction. You don't know. I mean, I'm in a bit of there's a separation there. I think my personal thing that I always found frustrating at the agency was when clients would take questions and then share it with every participant within the RFP. I've never understood that.
Yeah.
If I ask a smart question, that's the value that my organization should get for being smarter in the process than anybody else. And if you turn around and share it with everybody, that's ridiculous. So I've always found that very frustrating in the process. I'm sure there's a few people on the call that drives them crazy as well. Yeah,
especially if it ends up, if there are a lot of agencies involved and it results in an exceedingly long document filled with lots of questions and answers. That also makes it's more of a burden on the agencies as well to have to sort of piece together. It's not ideal. I think it's done in the name of fairness, and but it just ends up being more of a burden. Let me switch gears a little bit. So we've been talking about when it's an active pitch, and it sounds like, whether or not this is intentional on your side, that you've brought a lot of what is so difficult about an agency pitching to the way you inform how you ask clients to pitch you. What about in between opportunities, in between RFPs? Do you have preferences for how agencies should stay in touch? And again, what do you like and what do you see that you just drives you nuts?
It's a good question. Yeah. I mean, the email that isn't relevant, that's looking to schedule time with me. Hey, Stefan, here's who we are. Here's my calendar. Book 30 minutes with me and we'll meet with you. It's never worked. It never will work.
Yeah.
I've, just like everyone else, I've got a lot on my plate and I don't have time to meet with people that I don't have any relevance to me and are not connected to me and don't have something to deliver. So I try to, if someone calls out and reaches out and just wants a few minutes, I try to do a quick conversation as much as I can to try and share the benefits that people have given me over the years.
Yes.
But no, I mean the call and the note that says, hey, here's my calendar. Obviously that just doesn't work. I've got my agencies. I love my agencies. They're great. I'm not looking around for a new agency until I am. And at that point, that's the moment. So it's like you're selling a car. I get 1,000 Toyota ads over the course of 5 years that just kind of keep Toyota top of mind for me until I walk in the dealership, and then they go hardcore on the sales pitch. But that challenge is, of course, to stay top of mind in a light way and in a way that's relevant and delivers value to me. And that's hard to do. And frankly, if 100 agencies are all trying to do that at the same time, then it becomes overwhelming. And I try and find a way to move everything into the junk folder.
Yeah.
So it's tough to figure out what our challenges are and what you might say that might be relevant. Now, I do things like this conversation and other conversations, and I try to be as transparent externally as to the things that are the challenges for us. And so if someone is interested in connecting with me in particular, they will have gone out and done their homework. Yeah. However, most outreach to me is spam, right? It's not that someone has gone out and done outreach because they're interested in working for Destination Vancouver. They may have chosen my category and then they're, built a database list and sent it out to every single one of them. Well, 99% of the time, 100% of the time, that's not going to have value to me. And so it's not going to be delivered against. There's a need for understanding my business. If you want to get me to pay attention in between the pitches, you need to, I work in travel and tourism. It's not my, I spent most of my career in agencies and a lot in digital agencies. Now I'm a travel and tourism guy, and I need information that helps me perform very well in my specific category. So things that are general, very seldom are going to have relevance to me, unless it's things from maybe a technical standpoint or something like that. I'm quite technically oriented. I'm always trying to figure out how technology can apply to our business and how we can improve there. So I tend to be interested in that kind of conversation.
You heard that here first, folks.
Sorry?
I said, you heard that here first, folks.
Yeah.
Stefan's interested in technology. I can help him, or that's something that's relevant to you. Technology that will help you do your job better, grow the profile of Vancouver as a city to be for doing business in, for visiting, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so technology is important and is only growing more important, and we are moving into an era where technology is going to transform every single one of our businesses and going to make the agency business constantly more and more difficult. And I love the agency business. Sometimes I wish I was back in the agency business because it's a wonderful place to be. I sleep better at night now, but it's an amazing job. But what AI can do for us now is pretty spectacular. And as a responsible client and someone that has a duty to make sure I'm spending my dollars the best way possible, because they are taxpayer dollars, I need to see where technology can come in and help us out a lot. I think we have interesting conversations about the future of media agencies and where the individuals provide value and where the people provide value. I've worked at incredible creative agencies across my career in places like DDB and Canadian agency called Palmer Jarvis, and TBWA and AKQA. And I can tell you that, across my career of ideas that got built, only, I don't know, I'm going to go 20% might have been an awesome idea that a tool could never come up with. And as the tools are getting better and better, I think you're going to see more clients rely on the tools to come up with ideas for them. And agencies are now competing with technology, and that's a tough spot to be. What I want, because I am looking for that creativity to be the next level above where any tools can get me to. So I'm still completely dependent upon my agency to deliver that incredible thinking to me around these creative concepts that, you're sitting in a meeting and they're pitching and you're laughing at every single idea they come up with because it's kind of outrageous, but that kind of thing that you want to do. That's where I want to be, not in the territory which sort of is everybody can compete at now. So I think it's a tough spot to be, but I think that it's exciting for how agencies can continue to differentiate themselves. I'll throw one additional one in. It's just
please.
Angle here, Jody, but I'm Canadian. Shocker, Destination Vancouver.
The accent gives away just a little bit too.
It is, and we work with a lot of American companies, and we have strong partnerships with the U.S. But I also, everything I do when I have U.S. partners come in and pitch, they do need to understand that I'm working at a 35% discount, surplus. I don't know what you call it, but it's going to cost me a lot more if they're charging me dollar for dollar. And so, we have to have that conversation. And when they come in and they provide me with, rate cards or something like that are all done in US dollars, my very first response is, you haven't taken me into account. You're not thinking about me as your client. You're just looking at this in your approach. And then there's different ways, different mindsets that we take that, as we talk about that branding work, there was a big Indigenous component to our branding work, and Americans talk and think differently about their Indigenous nations than Canadians do. And we have very different language and a different approach to things. And even if you can understand it, you need to be able to think it and live it to make sure that you don't run into bad areas. So simply saying, understanding the mindset, understanding the dollars, understanding all those implications are a bit of a challenge for Canadians, but we do love working with our American cousins.
And, I think there's so much of this is sort of a balance, because I think some agencies, I know I've been guilty of it in the past when I was running biz dev for agencies, to go overboard on the research, because you really want to, you want to find that nugget that no one else has figured out, and that, I think, that gets really inefficient fast. But I think the other approach is just to be attuned to who this person or organization is, and sort of that overlap, looking for the overlap between your agency and what they need. Even things like, I know some of my Australian clients as well. They're also much more focused and attuned to the Aboriginal Native population. It's things like email signatures, which we do not include, but the acknowledgement of folks who've come before us. You see that in Canada, you see that in New Zealand. And so, it sort of doesn't take a genius to realize, oh, there's a difference there. That is a subtle, maybe not so subtle, cultural difference that I, as an agency leader who's pitching this client, needs to be cognizant of and attuned to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We are actually, I'm just looking at the clock. We are over time, and I know you've got a busy day and you're feeling terrible. Was there anything that I didn't ask you? Because I know we had a list of questions, most of which I didn't get to, but anything that we didn't cover that's just really important that you think for, the agencies that are pitching organizations like yours to know, or, any piece of advice? And it can be we covered everything.
Yes. Thank you. I can't believe we're already at time. This has been fun.
I know. See, it goes fast, right?
We want to have a very close partnership with our agencies, and a little bit of investment from our agencies will go a very long way in working together and finding new revenue opportunities for our agencies. I find there's two different types of people that move from agency to client side. One, which is sort of I'm going to catch them. And I always wonder what kind of agency they worked for before that they don't really trust their agency. But for the most part, is about finding a way to work better with your agency, understanding what they go through, understanding the process, understanding where there's efficiencies and where there isn't efficiencies. But also, I want to paint a picture of my future, of where I want to be with my agency, and work to get there together in collaboration. And unfortunately, it's harder than it sounds, because so much of agency work is short-term oriented, and my world is not as short-term oriented. Now, I'm way more fast-moving than other destination marketing organizations. It's caused us some challenges with our partners when I came on board, because they weren't ready for an expectation to move things in matters of weeks. Usually things happen in destination marketing organizations because we're not terribly competitive in a matter of years. But we will collaborate, we will build something together, and we want to have a long-term partnership where we build something amazing together. I take it very personally, the work that comes out of my organization. It is a representation of the job that I personally have done. I still don't believe I've got to achieve within this organization what I believe should be achieved within this organization. This is my hometown. I have this incredible opportunity to sell it, and I want to do what I believe I'm capable of doing here. And so we keep working on that, and we just have to find the right partners to enable us to achieve that.
Yeah. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. I'm just going to put up the link to your LinkedIn page, because you are on LinkedIn, and I think you're pretty active on LinkedIn. So if folks want to connect with Stefan, here's how to do it. I just want to thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your insight. I hope that, again, we didn't get a lot of comments. Oh, we did get one comment. Hold on. Oh, Andrew Sharp. I think we're running out of time. But Stefan, can I just read this really quickly and see if we can address this? Okay.
Yeah,
so
I'm happy to answer that one.
Let me do you see
Andrew,
Let me just read it out, or actually, let me do this. Let's see if I can show that real quick. 20% of the ideas you're involved with could only be created by humans, but the rest could be handled by tech. Just to clarify, are you actually saying that AI could conceptualize ideas, or that the production of those ideas, concepts, could be handled by tech? Okay, there we go.
So
Thanks.
I find that the tools are able to conceptualize. I find that they're able to come up with pretty good ideas. We've always talked about them coming up with first round ideas that need to be built on. But the first round ideas in many cases have been good as the concepts that have come to me from some agencies. So, the ideas, if I put, and what tools are able to do this, literally ChatGPT, if I go there and enter my brief and put it in there and say, come back to me with 5 ideas, oftentimes those 5 ideas are as good as the ideas that maybe might come back to me from one of my agencies. So I think we are in this competitive space where that should be the base level, and anything that comes back to me should be significantly better than what those tools can provide. But when I can get stuff that's not terrible in 5 minutes versus spending $40,000 in 3 weeks or whatever, I think the difference is something that's a little bit intimidating for those of us that are in this industry.
Yeah. And I don't know if any of us have really figured out the answer, except maybe if we're going to stay in this business, not to fear it and sort of walk towards it.
We have to embrace it. We have to turn it into a tool that we use, and we have to make sure that the humanity that we bring to the table surpasses what the tools can deliver.
Yeah. Great way of putting it. Well, thank you. And thank you also, Andrew, for putting that comment in. I'm glad we got to that. And thank you, Stefan, for being here. I hope the rest of the day goes well. I know you've got a few other meetings and webinars that you're participating in. Hopefully this was the easiest one. But I thank you so much. And hopefully maybe we'll invite you back for another one if you'd be willing to do that when you're feeling better.
Love to. Thanks, Jody.
Thanks.